But the first thing I want to talk about is basically the 3 to 5 year plan on a pathway to clinic director. And first, I'll kind of share a little bit of background about myself. I've been with Pro Rehab for about going on 13 years now. I originally moved out here from New Jersey in 2009 to pursue my PT degree. So that was a little bit of a culture shock moving from New Jersey to Louisville, Kentucky. In February 2012, I finally started as a PT in a small company called PT Plus locally here, which is a private practice. You'll see eventually that we merged with Confluent in 2015, turning into Pro Rehab. Prior to that, though, in 2014, I turned into the clinic director role. So roughly at 3 year mark, I turned into clinic director. The director was taking a different position. I was next in line and simply got handed the keys and really didn't have much guidance on how I got there. So this is partially where this topic comes from. In 2016, I obtained my OCS. So that journey there is actually a little bit more of a year in length because you have to apply, study, and then take it. So about my 4 year mark as a PT, I got my OCS. In 2017, I really pursued the oral facial TMD niche, which I'm going to share more information with you guys later. And then March 2018, I became a multi-state manager. I only oversaw one clinic at that time. And in 2020, I turned into a regional director, and now I oversee 6 locations. And you can see that I have 4 boys and a large family that keeps me super busy as well. So that is a little bit of my pathway. And some of the information I share on this, really, if I wish I knew when I was a PT starting, especially wanting to be a clinic director, I think that would help me day one becoming a PT. So ultimately, where's this topic come from? And as you guys pursue your career path, that interview question will pop up. What is your 3 to 5 year career plan? And the answer typically shows up, maybe I want to be a clinic director, or I do want to become a clinic director. So instantly we get you hired, and that roadmap starts to develop on how do we become a clinic director? What are the things that we need to be focused on, or should we be doing to be getting to that mark? And some places do really great jobs putting that in place. Others may not. And so here at Confluent, we have a really, really good roadmap. And so I want to share a little bit about what that looks like. The first thing, though, is what do clinic directors do? And really, we're running a business. I mean, PTs, typically by trade, we love to treat patients. We want to get patients better. But when you move into that clinic role, you are responsible for much, much more. You have your internal factors, which is your customers, your patients, your employees, and making sure all that stuff is driving the right aspect. Your external factors really is making sure that you're constantly growing the business with relationships that you're building outside of work. And those relationships also correlate with, recruitment and finding new PTs that bring into your business as well. But I always say it's a business of happiness. If your staff is happy, your patients are happy, your business is also going to be happy. So you're going to be doing a lot of things that would be, associated with clinical care all the way down to the employee management. So, simply, let's get some feedback from some clinic directors currently we have in our clinics. So I sent them some questions, and the first question I asked them is, what is the hardest part of being a clinic director? And so first one was managing people and marketing. We're going to talk about those things. Being responsible for productivity and meeting budgets. And so, everyone has productivity, but as a clinic director, you're responsible for the whole clinic. So, how do you get everyone to meet those standards is really a good leadership skill that you can definitely work on. What has helped you with the hardest part of being a clinic director? So the first thing to talk about is the Confluent Health Management courses, and we're going to review what those are. Taking time to reflect, prioritizing growing as a person, not just a clinician or manager, working on my elevator pitch, awareness that budgets are targets, annual variability will occur with patient volume, and must keep an attitude of desire to grow a clinic. And additional information you'd like to share with upcoming PTs who have a 3 to 5 year plan to move into a clinic director role. So seek knowledge of business and become an expert clinician as possible early in your career. We're going to talk about that in 1 second, because that's going to be the foundation that you're going to be as your product to clients. And don't forget where and why you started in the first place. Learning never stops. So what I kind of put together is this excellence journey to clinic director. And so there's 5 different things that kind of look at. The first one is clinical excellence, customer service excellence, management excellence, relationship excellence, and then leadership excellence. So the first one is clinical excellence, and this is going to be very well known to most of you. Residency, certifications, and CUs, those are the foundational pieces to really start improving your clinical side. And then taking that learning opportunity into the experiences with your patients really helps drive that mastery of skill. And I highlight Evidence in Motion on here because they have a great resource for all of these kind of materials that we offer at Confluent. And I don't know if any of you guys know Malcolm Gladwell, but he wrote a book in 2008 called Outliers. And he said in his book, he quoted David Levantine here, but in fact, researchers have settled on what they believe is the magic number for true expertise, 10,000 hours. The emerging picture from such studies is that 10,000 hours of practice is required to achieve the level of mastery associated with being a world-class expert in anything. And if you put that in perspective, residency, certification, CU tracks can get you there faster. 10,000 hours would be roughly 5 years of your clinical time to meet that mark. Doesn't mean you can't get there faster, but this is really the way you can get there in a more elaborate time frame. Customer service is the next bucket to kind of look at. There's different ways that we kind of approach it. First, the educational piece. So at Confluent, all our employees will typically go through an amazing training course where they learn about amazing principles and a call to care course. So we give a good foundational educational piece on what customer service should look like in the PT industry. Then how do we kind of look at the praise of customer service? So Google reviews, I mean, everyone's very, very well known about Google reviews. We all go there. And then secondly, notes of affirmation to your management staff, that you did a good job and that you're doing the right things. And then lastly, if you were coming in and wondering how would you get measured on your customer service, the first thing we look at would be Net Promoter Scores. This is where your patients will send in a survey about how they thought your treatment and your care was on the initial visit. What your arrival rate looks like because your patients are coming back to see you. Your friends and family amount that shows up at the door, and then ultimately has the clinic been growing where you need to hire more staff. And so if you're wondering, how do I know if I'm meeting that customer service mark, there are measurement scores that you definitely can be focused on coming into the practice. The next bucket, management excellence. So this graph here may be familiar to some of you may not, but a ethnographer named Simon Sinek, he does a lot of TED Talks or other kind of associated talks as well. But he kind of mentioned that he was working with Navy SEALs, and he asked Navy SEALs, how do you pick who's on your team? And he was referencing SEAL Team 6. And they drew this graph for him, and they said, performance and trust. And they said performance should not always be the indicator for, who has management excellence. They said, really, you want high trust levels. So the ultimate people that you want to bring up into a management side of things would be your high performers to mid performers, but high trust levels. And so, in corporate aspects, a lot of people look at performance as being a stepping stone, but really you want to work on your trust. And to work on your trust among your peers and demonstrate that, you want to really keep commitments and agreements when you're kind of working in your field. You want to follow policy and procedures. You want to also be efficient or improving efficiency of those things. Management of the support staff. So if you're a PT starting out and you have techs, you have care coordinators, those things helping with that is definitely a good way to build trust in your team. Improving your soft skills. Communication is a huge piece of this. And then lastly, getting feedback from your peers. The next bucket, really relationship excellence. And so, this always comes up. I'm a physical therapist, not a marketer. We didn't learn about how to market in school. And this is a very intimidating bucket for some. But there's a lot of easy ways, especially starting out as a PT, that you can definitely work in this area. The other thing to consider is if you look at the first three buckets, clinical excellence, you expand in clinical excellence, you will be the best in your field. You should be able to sell that to anyone and advocate that PT is the right choice for a lot of patients and share what we do every day. The customer service side, you expand on that, you can definitely let them know that we have the best product in the industry and you have the measures that prove that. And then your management excellence, you have the best staff because they're retained, they're doing a great job, and you're integrated with them. So selling this to other providers should be very, very easy. And the simple steps you can start off with are these. Interact with providers as quickly as possible. So you get a new evaluation in, you can send them a text or phone call, or you can fax it out. You can schedule office shadows, surgical shadows. Mention that. Refer them patients. Great way to build relationships. Consider non-medical referrals. So some people may not be comfortable with the doctors. They can go to gyms, personal trainers, coaches. Right? Get involved in the community. Simple fun runs, marketing events such as festivals and fairs, and just being active in that. Set up or attend MD lunches, or kind of just personal coffee, lunch, meet and greets. Those things are very simple things you guys can do day one that definitely help foster this bucket that helps put you in a very good role to become a clinic director down the line. And the last thing to really highlight is leadership excellence. And so this graph right here highlights kind of the leadership track that Confluent offers. If you come into the scenario, you have Emerging Leaders, which is an online base level of leadership training. It moves into PTville, which is basically online, but also on site. And that really starts kind of giving you more of the leadership and management skills to move in that clinic director realm. And then as you get into the clinic director role, we have an executive program in private practice management. And that is a MBA type program. It's about 9 months in length. And so that really kind of allows you to open up a clinic from A through Z. So you would have all the tools that you would need to run that clinic successfully. And then if you see on the back side of that, the blue and green side, after all that, there's a lot of coaching-based opportunities where you can continually foster your leadership growth among your peers, sharing about certain situations or scenarios that you have questions on, and really kind of sharing answers on how to solve those problems. Emotional intelligence, kind of learning more about those buckets as well as a good pathway. And last thing is the Enneagram. And if you guys have never heard about the Enneagram is a great way to identify your personality style and also others around you. So for example, I'm a 3, which is a performer. So my wheels are always turning on the efficiency side. And if you see the branch of that goes to a 6 as a planner, it hits me right on the head on kind of the way I operate. And understanding about it myself and understanding about others is a great way to build your leadership skills on how to work cohesively as a team. So wrap up a couple of different questions that we asked the clinic directors. And so what did you wish you knew your first year as a PET, which would have helped you move into a clinic role sooner? And so we talked about this, business skills and marketing awareness. The next one, the director said she was comfortable. She took it about 4 years, and the reason she felt comfortable is because she really wanted the experience as a clinician first. The top 3 things that you must be able to do to be successful as a clinic director. The first one, director said, understand how and what insurance pays you for your services. This is simply understanding the business that we offer on the backside of it, not the treatment side, but the backside. Handle employees with respect and create relationships with them, and become known in your community to earn referrals. The second director said, listen to your staff and patients, do what you're saying you're going to do, and be flexible and personable. And so that really resonates with a lot of the things we talked about earlier in this presentation. And the last thing that we asked them is, if you were interviewing candidates for a clinic director role, what things would you be looking for them to have? And they said flexibility, ability to handle pressure, ability to relate with customers and their employees, and resilience. And the last one said ambition, good ideas, good communication skills, rapid responsibility, and someone open and curious about and demonstrates the ability to make decisions to take action. So I hope this kind of gave you guys a little bit of insight on plans that you can work on as you kind of look to start your career if you have interest in a clinic director role.